Welcome to Peter and Ruffy's Football Show. We're live on PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel. I'm Peter Martin. Alan Ruff and Alison McConnell are here with me. And of course, you can give us your opinion by joining in below our live stream on our YouTube channel. Or indeed, you can subscribe and hit the bell and you'll get all the notifications as well of our unique video content. You can download the app as well. And in submissions, you could record yourself and be a part of the show as well, and we'll send you something special. Lots to talk about on the programme. European football dominates our thoughts. Of course, the fallout from Rangers' defeat to Malmo continues. We'll be asking the question, do the players in Steven Gerrard's squad, some of them need to go to balance the books? We'll get Ali and Ruffy's thoughts on that, and we'll get their opinion on whether they think it's going to be a good night for Scottish clubs in European competition. There are a few early kickoffs, we'll discuss them as well. But first and foremost to that very point that we were talking about there, which is, Alison, sometimes when you're right, sometimes when you're wrong, you'll get it in the neck. You called it, you posed the question earlier on in the week that maybe a full house at Ibrox might bring a negative impact on the players. They certainly, over the 90 minutes, didn't produce what the fans wanted.
To be fair, I think my point was just that sometimes in terms of adversity, that not all players can cope with it when you hear the grumbles of frustration and you sense an irritation coming and a negative energy that can impact in certain players. I don't know that my point was quite that it would have the adverse effect of creating the defeat. I do think that Rangers lost a tie because they just weren't good enough in both legs. I think they were outplayed by Malmo. I think if you look at the course over the two games, I think Rangers played well for 45 minutes, and on balance of play it's not enough to take you through. And I think first and foremost what happened was they didn't get the performance that they needed at this level, and then when you have the inevitable frustration that comes with that, that's when I think sometimes players can go into themselves.
Yeah, and Rangers won't be the only ones who fall foul of that as we go back to stadiums at full capacity, Ruffy.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like harping back to 78, but it happened to us when we get beat by Peru. We get beat 3-1. The fallout for that was unbelievable, and the reaction to it, getting beat 3-1, and then we had to go out against Iran and put in a performance. And the players were so low and so down, and the reaction for the fans who'd paid good money to get there, I would think half of the team never performed, because of that.
Yeah, but I think it's a unique situation that clubs find themselves in, Ruffy, because of our last 18 months, where at times I've found some of the football pedestrian, because players will take that easy option. They're not really under any pressure of fans going, and booing them for the way they're going about their football. So we were wondering how players who've joined big clubs like Rangers and Celtic and how they would handle the pressure of fans coming in. And you start to see it when the game means something. At times there was nobody brave enough to take the game by the scruff of the neck. Yeah,
and that's a pressure, as Ali said. Some players just step up their game. They love that kind of environment, and somebody's getting them hassle, they can be able to blank it out and just go for it. But not everybody's like that. There are certain players who, just can't adapt to it. And I think the boy Kent comes into that category when he's a wonderful player, fantastic player when he's on his game. Everybody's cheering him and everybody's, wanting to do things. But when things aren't just going for him right, he seems to back off and go into a wee shell, and that's not one of the players you want to be doing that. But you're right, that some teams will react to 50,000 cheering them and you going forward and they're doing fantastic things, and some teams won't. Some teams will go into a shell.
Yeah, absolutely. Hi to so many people who've joined us. Fraser Annan. Andrew Davison says, good morning from Toronto, no less. Great to have you on, Andrew. Always good to speak to people who join the show, and lots of people offering their thoughts. Owen McGrandles just says, quite simply, bring back Charlie, after we booed him out of the studio yesterday, Ali.
I hope you're not doing similar to me.
Well, we just wanted to give him that kind of a feeling that he was
we're just waiting to the crowds waiting and you're up there.
There's a whole team of people wanting to know your movements, Ali. Anyway, Neil Gray says it's game day. Saints have nothing to lose, as nobody has given us a chance to beat Galatasaray. But no matter what happens, St Johnstone can hold their heads up high. We're not expected to get anything McNeil. It's a great point you make. We will be discussing St Johnstone very shortly, but it is indeed topics like that we will get round to. Good luck to the Scottish teams tonight, says Stephen McNeil. Thank you for that. Lackey Gold, come on the Saints. So lots of people offering their opinion on it. You can give us yours as well on the topics we're discussing. Now, rather than, people sometimes accusing us of suggesting something that might, in their mind, be nonsense, Stephen Gerrard himself, has had something to say regarding, the overall impact of losing that game. He said somewhere down the line our transfer dealings could be affected because of the loss of 40 million?
Yeah, and even going back further than that, Dave King has already come out and said they need Champions League football. They need Champions League group stage to get the finances back in order, and we've already discussed it. I think Rangers have pushed the boat out, and wages wise, to get them there. And they've fallen short of that. So as Charlie yesterday said, even in every board, not just Rangers board, there's a budget for getting this and there's a budget for getting that. And obviously, Rangers were hoping they were going to get into the Champions League, so the budget would have been there to go out and buy more players. I don't think that budget will be there anymore. And quite rightly, everybody's saying, well, does that mean because they're not getting the 30-40 million, they have to recoup? Which is common sense. It's not like a strategy you wouldn't use. So I think the Rangers supporters are just a bit anxious of how many players and who are the players and how much money it is to balance the budget. The fortunate thing, as you've touched on numerous occasions with Celtic have done that if they never got the Champions League. But Celtic have amassed a fortune of millions, starting from Dumbelly.
Yeah.
And then you've got Frimpong going out the door, you've got Ayer going out the door, so there's a pot of gold that has been sitting there. Rangers aren't fortunate enough to have that pot of gold because they haven't sold their players on for a lot of money.
Yeah, the non-stop speculation on it was so crucial this year, and it will become ever so crucial in the forthcoming years. But the plain facts are, and as Ruffy mentioned here, whether it was Dave King or Stuart Robertson, it's business economics here, Alison. It's not any of people. It's nobody in Scotland with an agenda against Rangers. It's business economics of, Morelos, sellable asset. Porto think they've got a real chance of landing him, and Rangers have to look and say to themselves, well, there's been 8 years of losses. The last one in December was 15.9 million. So sooner or later, there's not a lot of people continually going to offer soft loans if you're not suddenly starting to recoup some of the money.
I think it's inevitable. I think, as Alan mentioned there, it's common sense. I think when you budget or you have an eye on what could be a potential revenue stream and it doesn't come in, I think you have to look at alternatives. I don't think the finances that come from Europa League qualification come anywhere near what Champions League money is. The chasm between the two is significant. I think we've seen it before. When clubs don't make the Champions League, there's a sale to offset the balance and to offset the books. I think it's inevitable that there will be players who go. To be fair, I think maybe there would have been an argument that Alfredo Morelos would have gone anyway. I don't know if maybe he feels as though his time at Rangers is up and that he wants a different challenge, but I think now the difference is that there's an urgency and a need to maybe sell players to balance it. And it's interesting because I thought what you saw on Tuesday night was a team with that pressure on them, and we've seen it with Celtic too. We've seen it in recent seasons when you have that weight of the Champions League qualification and you know everything that surrounds it, what it entails, and the one aspect to it is the glamour and the prestige of being in that company and being in the group stages, but the other aspect to it is the financial revenue that it brings into the club, and I think you could feel the weight of it. I think you could sense just the expectation, and I think we've seen Celtic toil with it too over the last decade. If you go back, I think it's 2017 since Celtic last qualified for the group stages too, and I think the closer you get, I think the harder it can be to cope with that.
Yeah, well, lots of people have their say on it. Some of you might like what we have to say, some of you don't. At least you'll get an opinion on the programme on a regular basis, Monday to Friday. And that very point you're making there, you can almost set your clock by it. If Celtic lost to a team that they were expected to beat, I would just look and go, he's gone. He'll be sold shortly. And 3-week window, bang, he's out the door to balance the books. And I think Rangers will have to be just as efficient as they move forward with this. And that's even with huge season ticket sales. Great interest in the strips, the merchandise, and all the other activities that they're trying. They might not get the money from the press in their current war, but they'll get it from elsewhere. And I think that's common sense. As far as the next hurdle that they have to overcome, and Steven Gerrard's just mentioned this in his quotes with regards to, where they are as a team. This is what he had to say regarding the Europa League. I'm not naive enough to sit here and think the last two results won't have an impact somewhere down the line. We've shown that we are a last 16 team in the Europa League in the last few seasons. We're disappointed with this week, but we move on to our next challenge. And that next challenge is huge again. The only thing I would say to counter Alison's point there is, yes, there comes pressure when you're expected to beat a Ferencvaros, a Malmo, and you don't, and you lose. There's great disappointment because you're trying to get to the Champions League. The reason why they don't do it is because, quite simply, our standard in Scottish football, as I continually mention, but people just don't get it, has dropped. Every team in Scotland, if they're lucky, the two big ones, are just Europa League teams now. And it's because, Ruffy, they don't have enough of the standard of player that can handle the pressure, that can do something that gets you that next hurdle. Mm-hmm. And it's not me taking a swipe at Rangers or Celtic, it's the plain facts. You can't get past these teams, you can't get past a Michelin because you've either not prepared and you haven't signed their players in good time, which is Celtic's problem this season, or you don't have enough of the good players who can make a difference, or the ones that you think are good players that you've elevated to some kind of fantastic player can't produce it. I give you a Ryan Kent, a boy with ability that I think should be the type of player that goes and rips that game up, opens up the defence and creates something magical. Didn't happen. There are levels that we're dealing with now, and unfortunately for us in Scotland, we have to put up with the fact that when's the next time we're going to see or hear the Champions League theme in Scotland? And next year, maybe, because one of us is going to automatically get into the group stage, so...
Yeah, I think not only that, I think but all the teams that they come up against have all improved themselves. I mean, Celtic have been coming up against teams that they played 4 and 5 years ago, and they seem to have progressed to having a better class of player. And there's no doubt about it, Celtic have went on record to say, look, we have to just draw the reins in, we have to start selling players, we have to bring youth on and sell them on. So their philosophy's changed as well, because the successful Celtic... I'm getting away for Rangers. The successful team that Celtic had that got to the Champions League were all international players.
Yeah.
They were all hard and fast. They were all playing for Sweden or Norway or whatever. Now it's guys just starting their careers to get into that international level. It's the same when you bounce back to Rangers. I mean, Steven Gerrard has brought wisely, but he's not brought a lot of quality. I mean, Kent and a couple of others are quality, but the others are just like championship players and have done a really good job for them and went in there and raised their game to the level that they're at. So where Rangers were and where they are now, they've got a better quality of players, but it's not the quality that's going to take you that step further.
Yeah, Ronnie Porter makes a point, and it's something that Ronnie makes regular points on the programme. Some you can agree with, some you disagree with. This one is something that I think is a general consensus among a certain group now that have emerged since the popularity of social media. The only urgency for Rangers to sell any players are in the minds of the media, says Ronnie. Rangers will have another plan in place, as they would not just rely on Champions League group stage money. Well, I think we can all disagree with Ronnie on that point, because quite simply, this fixation with the mainstream media and everybody's got it in for us, conspiracy theory is a load of claptrap. The facts are that nobody makes up 8 years of losses. Nobody makes up the fact that you listen to countless chairmen, countless owners, chief executives, managing directors emphasising the need to balance the books. This is not something that's made up or it's suddenly an agenda that we all steam in on. We listen to what they have to say, we look at their financial results, and you listen to managers saying, Steven Gerrard in the last 5 minutes, this will have an implication. It's common sense.
I think if experience has taught you anything in recent years, is that you cannot continue to operate at a loss. It's unsustainable, and it's. I don't have a business degree, I don't have a qualification in how to run a company, but common sense will tell you cannot always operate on substantial losses. I think wait and see. I think we can have this conversation the day after the transfer window closes and see what comes after that. But my own feeling on it would be that there would be an inevitability about cashing in on assets that are at the club simply to try and balance the books in a financial sense.
Yeah, okay, European football tonight to talk about as well. Gabriel Antoniazzi sets the scene for us.
It's another huge night of European football for Scottish clubs, with 4 teams just 90 minutes away from the playoff stage. Starting with the Europa League, St Johnstone have one of the biggest games in their history as they host Galatasaray at a packed-out McDermott Park, with the tie finally poised at 1-1. A draw away in Istanbul is already plenty to be proud of, but this resolute team have already made history and are set on doing so again. Expect a tense and nervy night, but the Perth faithful hope will live long in the memory. Celtic play a bit later at 7:45 with 1 foot already in the playoff after a 4-2 win in the Czech Republic over Jablonec. The mood has turned in Glasgow over the past week or so after electric displays from Kyogo Furuhashi and co. A sold-out Parkhead will welcome Ange Postecoglou for the first time, and after the Australian promised to be all guns blazing from the first whistle, prepare for goals. In the Conference League, Hibernian travel to Rijeka in the best possible frame of mind after a strong start to the season, according to boss Jack Ross. Hib should have won last week, but they take a 1-1 draw to Croatia in confident mood. 2 players who will look to make a mark are the returning Kevin Nisbet and the red-hot Martin Boyle, although the Leith side do have the toughest task of the lot. And Aberdeen will look to see out a 3-2 lead over Breiðablik of Iceland in front of over 15,000 fans at Pittodrie. After a hard-fought victory over Livingston at the weekend, the Dons will be back to full strength tonight, with Scott Brown and Lewis Ferguson in midfield, whilst Christian Ramirez will look to add to his 4 goals up front. Derek McInnes never reached the playoff round of Europe. Can Stephen Glass do so in just his first campaign? Let us know your predictions for all of the games.
Yeah, give us your predictions on the games. How do you think it's all going to go? We're going to be talking about each individual tie. The tie of the round, I think it's the one that we're really looking forward to, is up at McDermott Park. It's St Johnstone against Galatasaray. Our reporter Gabriel Antoniazzi will be up there covering it for us. We'll get reaction from the match after the 90 minutes, maybe the extra time, maybe the penalty kicks, as Ruffy has suggested as well. But boy, do I hope they pull off something special up there tonight.
Yeah, it'll be absolutely bouncing. You know, it's a very compact stadium up there. I do believe it's just a bit of sellout, so that'll be a lift for the players, you know, who, as we talk about, want to react to it, hopefully. They don't go into a shell.
Surely you can't be not welcome in Perth as well, Ali.
Give it time.
Yeah.
But no, I think the players coming off of the one each, you know, you've got to have a wee bit of confidence. But I think they're sensible enough to know they were down to 10 men. They were up against it for long periods. Xander Clark had a fantastic night, and he'll have to have the same night tonight. I think they need a wee bit of rub of the green, because this is a good side. So that's why I'm saying I hope it goes to penalties and they get a wee rub of the green and win the penalties.
Yeah. Listen, talking about pressure, Callum Davison reckons on the evidence of the cup finals, certainly his Saints players can indeed handle the pressure.
Yeah, definitely. I think a couple of games were a big sort of an eye-opener for them. I think it was just an understanding that they are decent players. You know, they actually believe that they're good, they're decent, they're okay. You know, they can perform at that level, that pressure. Probably not as much pressure tomorrow night. I think there's less pressure. I think there's probably pressure from outside. You know, within, we know what we've got to do. And for me, I just want to give the guys the freedom to go and play.
Well, I liked him as a player. I certainly like what he's doing as a manager, because he's a calming influence. He's got a formation in his head. His players know exactly what the game plan is.
Listen, he's a young manager who's making a name for himself. I don't think he could have scripted a better start to his managerial career. I thought last season was exceptional, and I think even just going over to Galatasaray and getting that result would have raised a few eyebrows. I think I wouldn't have anticipated them coming away with a draw and still being in with a fighting chance for the second leg when you think of the magnitude of the opposition that they were playing. I think whatever happens tonight, I think they're a team that are going in the right direction.
Yeah, as far as the potential lineup is concerned, I mean, you can always tell a good team, Ruffy. Near enough picks itself. I mean, if you have a look at what we think will be the predicted lineup for them, I mean, they've got that back three to build on. The solidity is there for all to see. They've got the experience in the middle. Rooney can cause a problem on the right. I always liked Booth as a young player when he was at Hibs as well. Wotherspoon for me is the star man. I think he's got a great bit of skill about him. And of course O'Halloran seems to be rejuvenated under Callum Davison at St Johnstone.
Yeah, but I think if you ask anybody, I think the strength of the team's been that back three. They've been absolutely solid. And obviously with the goalkeeper behind him, he's had a fantastic year or two. But you're right, Rooney will always cause problems at corners. You know, it doesn't matter who you're playing against, he's going to be there trying to get on the end of things. And Halloran got that pace that a lot of teams couldn't deal with. You know, obviously lost it a wee bit, but he seems to be back. And everybody that goes back to St Johnstone seems to be in a comfort zone. Seems to be a right family club and they'll enjoy what they're doing. So that's where I think they'll get the benefit of the game tonight.
Yeah, you just need to feel wanted, Ruffy. It's as simple as that. I know sometimes that you've been a kind of a player, and certainly as a pundit, you like that feeling of just having a wee arm around you.
No, not at all. Barry used to put his arm around me, but his fist was coming the other way.
Yeah, well, I mean, Ali, are you that type of worker? You just need that wee bit of confidence, yeah. I thought you might be saying that.
We all need some love.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a catchphrase. There's a catchphrase I never thought I'd hear on this show. Anyway, apart from anything else,
Not your comments anyway, that's for sure.
That's for sure. You're absolutely right. St Johnstone have put out a statement regarding tonight's game, saying away fans don't turn up at the stadium because you won't get in. Now, clearly that's aimed at a lot of, there'll be Turkish-based fans here in Britain, living here, restaurants, might think to themselves, I'll go there and maybe get a ticket. But this is the one time, because of the way we're just opening up, that there will be tough restrictions on it, and it's going to be a bouncing full of St Johnstone fans.
Yeah, and that's a good thing about it, you know, that there's not very many times that St Johnstone's Park will be full.
Yeah.
You know, so this is one you want to enjoy as a player, and it will go down in history as this game. And we all talk about Rangers and Celtic games, and even Dunfermline games are way back in history in Europe, the teams they used to play. So this is one for the team to remember, and hopefully it's a good memory. They
haven't won away in the Champions League since 2013, Galatasaray. They're not good travellers, Ruffy. The evidence is there. The stats suggest that maybe. I'm sticking by 2-1. What about yourself?
For St Johnstone?
Yes.
No, I'm going one each. I'm going one each. Penalties.
Ali?
I'm going one each as well.
Yeah. Neil, and penalties? St Johnstone to win it?
I'd love to see St Johnstone win it.
I know you'd love to see them, but give me a prediction.
To win in penalties.
Right, okay, there you are. Ali's
Xander Clark to be the hero again.
Yeah, suddenly Ali getting skelfs there, Ruffy. You know, from being forthright in her opinion, suddenly all wishy-washy.
Now wondering if I'll get trapped in. We are now saying the same thing.
Okay, St Johnstone, we wish them well. Neil thinks 1-0 scrappy game. You know, ball hits off a pigeon, then deflects off the post into net. I don't care how it goes in, as long as they win, it would be fantastic. Randers is potentially the team waiting for them in the next round, the next hurdle. I just want to see one of the clubs get into the group stages so that they can get £3 million, Ali. That money is vital. It changes the whole landscape for the next couple of years.
The money's one aspect of it, and you know, I don't think you can minimise the impact, especially for a club like St Johnstone, what getting those resources would do for them. But I think the other thing you've got to consider too is the coefficient. I think we were talking about next season, about the possibility of whoever wins the title going straight into the Champions League group stages. It's an incredible achievement to have got the coefficient up so much. I didn't think that it would ever be elevated to the extent it has, and I think you would have to applaud the good results that Rangers had in the Europa League in previous campaigns, and Celtic too. You know, some of the results on the road and at home all added to the coefficient. So you think what it does if you have another season where you have 3-4 representatives who make it further and deeper into the tournament. It helps to feed that, and the long-term aspect of it. It makes it easier. It facilitates Scottish teams being involved on a regular basis, which then brings the money in on a regular basis, which raises the standard again. Yeah,
I think actually if St Johnstone could get past Galatasaray and Randers, I mentioned 3 million, that's a base level for Europa Conference. There's anything up to 10 could be there if you get to the group stages and things really go well for you. St Johnstone against Galatasaray is one of the ties. The other one is Celtic against Jablonec. Celtic Park will be absolutely bouncing. It's a sellout. The season tickets are sold out as well, Ruffy. The only thing I would mention to you before we get to, and of course lots of people will offer their own tuppence worth here on this on our YouTube feed, is there's a strange thing in the west of Scotland. I think sometimes it's great for me because I've lived elsewhere, 12 years in Edinburgh, and elsewhere out with the country, where you get you start to understand the psychology. In the last week to 2 weeks, we've had a situation where it's been Rangers will dominate for the foreseeable future. They'll bank all this money. Celtic have beaten Dundee 6-0, and suddenly, there are predictions. There are doomsday predictions for Rangers, and it's flipped, and Celtic are going to win the league. This end of the country's mad.
I think we all know that. I think everybody knows that, and both sets of fans know, and the players know, and everybody who has been witnessing it for the eternity. That's the way it works. That's why, second is no good.
Yeah.
That is it. I mean, as far as these two clubs are concerned, but the fans are just desperate to get to a game. They're desperate to see their team being successful. They just want to get back on the road. I mean, I can imagine them for the last year and a bit. They've been no part at work at all. After the games, Monday must be boredom.
Yeah.
Now they've got a chance to go to games, they've got a chance to talk their team up or complain or moan or whatever.
No, but Ruffy, this isn't punters. This is pundits. I'm listening to pundits suddenly going from, it's a full 360. It's one opinion 1 week of Rangers dominance to suddenly, Celtic could win the league. I mean, I'm listening, I'm thinking, Can you not take a step back and wait and see? We offer a prediction with a bit of fun about who's going to win the league. I've put down Rangers. But suddenly by the time you get to the end of August and clubs make signings, things can change dramatically. Last season I tipped Celtic to win the league, based on the fact that they would have looked at it and said 10 in a row, they'll buy the players. But Steven Gerrard stuck to a game plan, got everybody with 2 players for each position, played a certain way, and instead of the draws of the previous season, changed their fortunes.
I think it just shows you what 2-3 bad results does in Glasgow. I think all of a sudden, if you are Celtic or Rangers and you lose back-to-back games, or as has just happened with Rangers, you lose 3 games on the bounce, all of a sudden you are firefighting. There's a crisis at the club. There are all sorts of questions asked, or you're held up to a certain kind of exposure. I think the converse is true. Celtic winning against Dundee wasn't just about Celtic winning against Dundee. It was about the fact that Rangers had dropped points at Tannadice the day before. It was about the manner of the performance, and all of a sudden all this optimism that's been expunged by the way that Rangers played last season is back again. It takes root again. Whether it's based or whether it has any level of substance, I think you won't know until the season starts to pan out. But I think it just shows you how quickly things can swing in terms of perception and outlook if one team is winning and another looks as though it's struggling. Yeah,
the one thing I do enjoy, Ruffy, and some people moan about the internet and the social media and how there's a lot of negativity around, and we only have to witness that on a daily basis. If you put your head above the parapet, you get battered, But Hugh Scott has just said there, Peter, a week is definitely a long time in Scottish football. All Rangers have done is give encouragement to Celtic by underperforming. Let's just see how it plays out. I mean, that is sensible words from Hugh, because I think you get that knee-jerk reaction, and it's not just from punters, it's pundits now and journalists looking at it and swinging one way then the other. I do enjoy the memes though, and all the different bits of banter between both sets of fans, because it's a great noise up.
It is, that's what fans live for. I mean, that is their whole life. They work Monday to Friday, and then the weekend comes and their whole life is taken over if they're big supporters of these clubs, and it means so much to them. And that's why when Celtic went the whole year without losing a game, in the next season, people are going, we'll just go beat there. What happened there? And it's the same with Rangers. Rangers went through the whole season and the fans were all on a high and everything, and all of a sudden they've got to deal with a defeat. And some of them can't handle it. Both sets of fans, not just the others. So that's why You know, when you're playing with the likes of these two, you've got to win. There's no draws, there's no defeats. It's got to be a win.
Well, I'm not sure, and I'm not going to discount it, whether Ange Postecoglou is secretly just watching the show and monitoring what you're saying, Ali, because he says a full house will help the Celtic players tonight.
Something that's been constantly mentioned to me about the unique atmosphere of a European night at Celtic Park with 60,000 there. So, yeah, looking forward to it, and I'm sure the players are as well.
It's a brilliant opportunity to get the supporters back in, enjoying the football, and it's also a brilliant opportunity for the boys to go and experience and feel a full crowd again.
Yeah, it would have been a great opportunity as well, just to maybe offer the fans the game on the season ticket, but no such luck, Ali.
I think it was a no-brainer as a pure goodwill gesture for people who'd forked out substantial amounts of money last season for season tickets that they never got a chance to sit in, but in paying money to watch a video stream of games. I think it would have been a very easy goodwill gesture and a straightforward PR exercise, and a very small level and nod of appreciation to those who sustained the club when there were no fans allowed in last term.
Yeah, the one positive that he will really feel before the ball is kicked, Ange Postecoglou, is when he walks out and sees 60,000 all Celtic fans, bar the odd Yablonets official. It's an incredible noise that he'll be greeted by.
Oh, it's an incredible noise, you know, at Ibrox as well, but Parkhead as well. You know, it was wonderful. I think one of the biggest nights we were at was the Man City game in the Champions League. It was absolutely amazing. And you're right, players do respond to that as long as you're winning. You know, if you're winning, you're going into the game with a two-goal lead. You're definitely going to score goals, you know, so the whole place will be buzzing. There'll be players wanting to take part in the game. There'll be, you give me the ball, you know. But if it goes the other way, then you see people starting to hide a wee bit. But I don't think that'll be the case tonight. If you can score 4 goals away from home, I'm expecting 4+ tonight.
Yeah, there you are. Is that the reason why you've? I mean, I always like to check the kind of gear we're all wearing from time to time, Ali. But is that the reason? What is the reason for your sweatshirt, by the way?
My
sweatshirt.
This is, believe it or not, a golf top. It's a golf top from my golf club.
Yeah.
It's the colour that their professional has decided to sell jumpers. There are other jumpers you can buy different colours.
But the funny thing is,
I have a red shirt on. That doesn't mean I'm not supporting Aberdeen.
No, but I'm just giving you a flavour of what I'm reading here.
I can imagine.
And there's lots of people in watching the show are looking and thinking, okay, I can see the old blue, but I'm disregarding that. I can see he's got a red shirt, but what if you get the green, white, and gold stripes for it, you know, and you're getting pelters for it,
it's a golf shirt, you know. I mean, I'll go into the golf shop tomorrow and buy something. Are
you going to buy something all green with just a tint of blue down the side?
If it's any consolation, I bought an orange umbrella the other day.
Did you? Well,
so maybe come in with that.
Don't bring it in. It's bad luck if you put an umbrella up inside, Ali. That's all I'm saying. As far as good luck's concerned, let's have a look at what we think will be Ange's selection for tonight. Hart in goal, Ralston, who's playing well, Welsh, Starfelt, the central defenders, Taylor on the left, Turnbull, Sorrow and McGregor, which I don't think will be the definitive midfield that continues throughout the season. Abada, great start to his season. Furuhashi, everybody's raving about him. And Christie, where's he going? Is he staying? Are they offering him a deal? Is there any communication? Are they about to cash in on him as well as Edouard from the bench? So there you have that team. My overall feeling about it, Ali, is it's not the finished article. I still think they're 3 or 4 short. You know, some people could say 5 or 6. You know, as a squad, they're definitely 5 or 6 away from it. But I think they're 3 or 4 short from having a half decent team as a starting 11. The back line will give away chances, so that's a problem. Maybe not against Yablonets, but certainly AZ Alkmaar in the next part. I don't think the midfield has got. I mean, McCarthy would come in, but I don't think they've got somebody really creative, and I think they're woefully short in the striking department.
I agree on all fronts. I think there will definitely be additions made before the closure of the transfer window. I still think they're shy too. I would agree with you on another striker. I think Lee Griffiths has become so unreliable now after signing the extra year. I think you would have wanted to see him kick on and really impose himself in the first team again. It's not really happened in recent weeks. I think if Edward goes, there's definitely an argument for at least another striker, creative midfielder. I think still another central defender and at least one other fullback. I think it might take 2 windows, possibly 3 windows before he may have the squad that he wants, if, of course, you have to temper that by saying that if he gets that time, not every manager would be secured that longevity to go and build the squad that they want. The other point, just about the team you put up there, I don't know if Sorrell will start tonight or if he might try and get James Forrest into the team some way and play Callum McGregor just in front of the defence in that deeper role and play Forrest left so that you have another creative outlet. I'm not sure, and I think maybe James McCarthy might come on at some point this evening too. Yeah,
I mean there are options, but not enough of them at the moment, Ruffy. Even their manager has mentioned, Ange Postecoglou, there are still players that he wants in.
Yeah, and I think Celtic are at the stage now that I think we've all decided that Edouard's leaving. I think he'll leave at the right time. I think a positive result tonight and then another European tie. You want these players to leave when everything's going well, you know. And Christie, well, I'm not privy to what's happening behind the scenes, but he hasn't signed a contract and they're not going to lose the money, any kind of money with the contract that he's on. So I think a positive result tonight and then moving into the next round, you might find that if there's bids on the table, I think the two of them will leave.
Yeah, apart from middle of the park Frenchman that left at a free.
Cham.
Oh,
I was trying to think of his name there. It's a bad day. Just shows you how poor he's been that I can't even remember his name. But apart from him, this is a club that very rarely lets anybody go for nothing.
No, I know. I would agree. I think the surprising thing I find about Ryan Christie's situation is that there's not been a contract put in front of him simply to give him a decision to make. I think on recent evidence he looks as though he would be pivotal to the way that Ange Postecoglou wishes to play. I think he's shone in recent games. I think there's clearly a role for him to play in that team. I think you have to go and offer him something and give him the decision to make.
Okay, now the next one is Rijeka against Hibernian. This is the one where I have a fear, Ruffy.
Yeah. And quite rightly, if you draw at home, you know, obviously you've got to take more than 90 minutes into it. By all accounts, Hibs had chances, but that team will have left there Easter Road thinking, okay, we've got the draw, you know, let's go back to our bit, and we've got a reasonable record there. We know what we're up against. So for me, it's up to Hibs. It's up to the players at Hibs, and we saw the form that they've been on here. And the certain big players that we know, you know, that can perform on the night will have to perform. I think it'll be a really tense night. I think it'll be the odd goal, you know, and hopefully it goes Hibs' way.
Yeah, they had a few players that I thought were technically good on the ball. And I mean, at the end of the day, Martin Boyle will need to do something special. You're looking for Nisbet. I don't know what it is, but every time I go and see Nisbet, I'm not that impressed. I've had a few people giving me pelters about it, saying, no, he's a class act. Tam loves him, but then Tam loves anybody in a Hibs strip. Tam loved Ruffy in a Hibs strip. But I have my worries. I think this is the night. We're talking about Ryan Kent. This is the night for Kevin Nisbet to pop up and score a goal.
I think you need a big performance. I agree with Ruffy. I think it'll be tense. I think the balance of the tie is in their favour. I think it'll be hard for them to come through, but I agree with you. I think this is when you need to see what your players have got and what you can offer when you're really under pressure. I would disagree with you on Nisbet. I've seen him quite a bit last season, and that he did. I thought he was impressive. I thought he looks fit. He looks as though he's changed his whole body shape, his whole physical outlook. I thought he looked sharp last season. I think he would do a job for Celtic or for Rangers if one of them was in the hunt for another.
Would you swap him for Griffiths?
Striker on current form.
Yeah.
I think he would give you more, because at the minute Lee Griffiths just isn't offering enough in terms of availability, of selection choices, of being fit, of sustaining fitness. So at the minute, I think you would have to say so.
Yeah, and Jack Ross is well aware that there's going to be a hostile atmosphere, but he says his players can handle it.
I think that was really clear-headedness about what we wanted to do as a team, and I think we produced a performance that reflected that. And it's been the same for us tomorrow in terms of preparation. Looking forward to playing away from Europe in front of a crowd and an atmosphere, because the previous round there was nobody really in attendance, so that'll be different. But I've got a squad of players that are well used to playing in front of big crowds and in big stadiums and difficult venues through the course of the league campaign and international games, etc. So I think they'll relish it tomorrow as well.
Well, I've mentioned that I think it's going to be a tough one for them. I think Rijeka may well get through this, Ruffy, but the one thing I would say is every time I've watched Hibs this season, I've been impressed by the way he's got this team playing football. I just need to be convinced of the cutting edge away from home.
I think they've got it in midfield. They've got a staleness in there. You know, they've got players who can play up front. They're dangerous. For me, it's Porteous and Hanlon. If the two of them really can play to the level we all know they can do it, I think they can hold out. If they start doing these crazy things they do in some games, that would be the downfall. So for me, it's they two tonight. You know, if they're solid at the back, I like the big goalkeeper. I think he's good, and we've already spoke about the players who can cause them trouble. So I'm going to stick with Hibs to nick it with a goal.
Yeah,
2-1.
2-1.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I did say 2-1 to. I think I've had Rijeka winning this one. I'm sorry, I'm just giving you the opinion on this one. I hope Hibs prove me wrong.
I would agree. I hope Hibs would prove us wrong, but I'm with you. I think it might just be a bit too tough to come through.
Yeah.
I'm going for a 1-0 home win.
Sometimes it's good if you've got players who understand what it's like to win on a regular basis and don't tolerate things like draws and get angry when it's potentially going to be a draw. I think Scott Brown's signing for Aberdeen was typified by the game against Livingston. Scott Brown comes on and basically gives everybody the message, and they win the game, albeit fortuitously with a shot. But nevertheless, they still win the game, and I think that will become a common theme for Aberdeen. Tonight, I think with a full crowd in there, I think they will, and by a couple of goals to spare against Breidablik, win this one.
I think he'd fancy them. I think he would definitely take them to win. I agree with you about Scott Brown. I think you can see the impact he's had very, very quickly. I think we spoke about it on Monday, but already he looks as though he's been there for a long time. You can sense the influence that he already holds over a new dressing room. I think when he came on against Livingston, I thought he changed the game. I thought he had a huge impact coming into it, and I think his experience on nights like this can be very important.
Yeah, and Stephen Glass, who is a key figure in getting Brown to Pittodrie, says they've got to go out there and set the tone tonight.
No, exactly. I know they're coming expecting a vibrant performance from us, and that's what they'll get. And I think the players know how to go and set the tone early in the game. We've got good experience in the group. We've got some really young boys that are excited to play in front of a crowd like this for the first time as well. I'm sure they've watched games in busy Pittodries, and they're looking forward to being a part of it tomorrow night. I think you'll see that, and it'll shine in the performance.
Aberdeen to win?
Yeah, I think so, yeah. I think it'll be a big night for them. There will be a wee bit of nerves because this is the round Aberdeen generally fall flat in their face. If it's somebody against Malta or somewhere like that. So they've readdressed that. I thought it was interesting at the weekend against Livingston. He left 3 or 4 players out. The first team players. So that shows you how strong he thinks his pool is. So no, I think they'll win tonight. I think we'll win 2-0.
Yeah, I'd like to see him hold on to Hedges. I don't want to see Hedges leave Scottish football just yet, Ruffy.
No, we want to see players like that, players that can take people on and do something special, and he's certainly one of them.
Yeah, absolutely. Give us your predictions. How do you think it's going to go? And we'll look back over some of them on tomorrow's programme. We'll have reaction right across the board from the managers and players involved in all the European ties. Hopefully, we are celebrating all 4 clubs with positive results. Wouldn't that be fantastic? And of course, even Aberdeen at this moment, if they can indeed get past this Aberdeen side and get past Breidablik, then they know it's Limassol or Qarabag in the next round, which is again a hurdle which I think they could overcome. You just look at their side at the moment that we think will take to the field. Ruffy mentioned 2 or 3 of them being out, but Ramirez has been brilliant. Hayes, experience. Hedges, tricky. Jet is, for me, their battering ram in that side. Ferguson and Brown is as strong as they've ever been in a long time. My only concern with Aberdeen is I think their back 4 is weak. Yeah,
I would agree with you. I think Lewis Ferguson will benefit from having Scott Brown in there beside him. I think he's a player who's really caught the eye. In fact, I would go so far as to say I'm surprised he's still at Aberdeen. I thought he might have moved on since then. Jet, again, I saw a few times last season from Livingston. He's absolutely big physical presence, a real handful at times for defenders to cope with. But
he'll give them a different option.
It gives you options, absolutely. It gives you the opportunity to change the way you're playing if you need it in games.
Yeah, I know it's a different level, and I'm not for a minute suggesting that Jet and Ramirez are a Sutton and Shearer style, but it's that pattern. Big guy, and the other guy feeds off the scraps. I look back to Scottish football, and I always think of Sandy Clark and John Robertson. Yeah. Sandy Clark would take every kick, punch, header in the back of his own head, just for a wee flick on for Robbo to go and score a goal, as you know only too well. That's the kind of a combination. I think Ramirez is going to score 20 goals plus this season, because not only has he got skill around the box, but he'll have the scraps of the knock-on from this boy.
Yeah, and I think this boy will score goals. You know, the big boy for Livingston, some of the goals he scored last year were phenomenal.
Yeah.
You know, he's not frightened to have a hit for whatever. And I think the two of them will complement each other. But the boy Ramirez, he looks like a big guy and all. You know, it doesn't look big guy, wee guy. It looks like big guy and another big guy.
Yeah.
Who've got a bit of muscle about them. So I think if they can get the delivery for the wide areas, the two of them will score goals.
Okay, give us your thoughts on the European competition, and we'll get reaction tomorrow. One little negative bit of news is as the country opens up and fans are allowed back to games, which is fantastic. Scotland won't have fans going to Denmark or Austria for the World Cup qualifiers, just basically because UEFA and FIFA have confirmed that fans can't make that journey, so they're going to have to sit on their hands again and watch it on the telly.
It's frustrating, I think, for fans who have been desperate to get back, and you see the world slowly coming back to normal. I think if you've got your COVID passport and you're able to get into stadiums and capacity events and think about travel, I think there will be a level of frustration at missing out on that, particularly after having to watch the Euros from a distance.
Yep.
That's a fortnight's holiday for the Tartan Army, they two games.
Well,
throw it out the window. They'd be away for a fortnight.
Yeah. I have to say to you, you'll never believe this. Obviously, as it comes round, we'll have to watch and keep our fingers crossed that somehow Steve Clarke again can produce something that gets us to a World Cup. That would be fantastic. Not sure we're going to go, Ruff. It could be too hot for us, Qatar. I don't know about you.
No, they've got remote controls.
Oh, is that right? So we're going to go. We're going to go.
Yeah.
I'm only talking about the van. I don't think it's got air
the
conditioning.
van, is it not?
No,
Oh, you better start that.
We'll need to go and buy we need to put money together to get another mystery machine with air conditioning in it. But nevertheless, it would be fantastic. I can imagine us trying to get through passport control. But nevertheless, the great little stat from one of our journalists here.
See what route we would be taking.
You're
around Europe in 80 days.
Yeah, Robbie, I don't know how we get there. But another great stat from one of our journalists, Cheryl, who says, apparently the last time St Johnstone Stadium was full, do you remember what it was for? A full, packed St Johnstone Stadium. When was the last time it was absolutely full to capacity? I mean, there's been some special games there. Look at Ali, I can see the wheels turning.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
No. You're going back to things like Monaco in your head, aren't you? Thinking about that. No, it was a Lionel Richie concert. No. So there you are, Ruffy. It's that gives you an indication of how long ago it's been. So I don't think Lionel will be there tonight, but fingers crossed he's watching from afar. Yes, absolutely. He'll have a stream of it somewhere in America. Last point, Ruffy, have you ever been subbed because there was a better goalkeeper on the bench at penalties?
Never.
No, it's not happening. No. Were you good at penalties?
Not particularly.
No,
just a guess. If I went the right way and they hit it poorly, I would save it.
You would get it, yeah, absolutely. That's an honest assessment. But
I'd love to be the goalkeeper who just stands still at the Panenka. I'd love to be a goalkeeper when a guy tries the flash chip and you just stand there and just thank you.
Oh, yeah.
I love that.
It has happened. It happened to Gary Lineker against Brazil, I remember. I would say to you that Thomas Tuchel is having none of it. He says, sub Mendy and get another goalkeeper in that had a better penalty saving record.
well, this was planned and this was openly discussed with the goalkeepers, and I'm absolutely very happy that they show this kind of spirit, this team spirit, that the team is first, and Ed was fine to take this one for the team. And okay, you still need luck, but everybody knows why we're doing this, and this is how it should be.
So Kepa comes on for 90 seconds of the extra time, then goes to his right, makes 2 great saves, wins the Super Cup medal. Mendy gets 1 too. They all get a bonus. There's no problem, Ali.
I thought it was remarkable.
Yeah.
I think it's a gamble now. It paid off because he obviously they won and he saved a couple of penalties. But I think if you're coming in cold, you know, you've not played the game, you've not been involved in it. I think it was a gamble. I don't think I've ever seen it before.
But there are goalkeepers who've got a presence standing in that goal. You look at the big Italian guy in the final, you know, you just looked at him, and if I was a striker, I'd be going, look at the size of him, where am I going to put this?
Yeah, well, Neil Gray makes a great point. He says, remember Van Gaal did it with, I think, Tim Krul. He did it in the World. He did it in a World Cup game apparently as well. Yeah, there's a few managers who've got a bit of a track record for it. Thanks for that, Neil. It's always good to get little insights into this, and of course the Lionel Richie one. The Lionel Richie one is going down a storm as well with regards to the concert. But nevertheless, I never thought I'd mention the Lionel Richie on the programme. Thanks for all your comments. It really is appreciated. And also over and above that, by the way, honestly, we mentioned Lionel Richie. There are even people they're giving Lionel Richie pelters. I mean, what's Lionel Richie ever done? He hasn't even declared his love for a Scottish club, for God's sake. That's what I love about this feed. This is social media to a T. Doesn't matter who you are, even if you're the... Well, listen, we only have to look at Marcus Rashford. Fantastic player, brilliant person. Even he gets pelters. The world's gone mad. Anyway, Chelsea win the Super Cup, and there's a realistic look at the Premier League coming up on the programme tomorrow, because many people reckon Chelsea are the only ones who can stop Manchester City, and the reports are, Ruffy, just before we go, that maybe Man City are willing to pay 150 million for Harry Kane. Somewhere along the line, Ruffy, the economic bubble is going to burst, and there's going to be a club just lying flat out broke like Bolton.
Yeah, but fortunately for these clubs, they've got owners who are billionaires. You know, they're just billionaires, you know, and you can't see them getting into any financial difficulty. I mean, and just to get off of Man City, I looked at you, we were talking about yesterday, we were talking about Paris Saint-Germain.
Yeah.
We put the team up there, somebody put the team up with their wages beside it. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
How do you sustain that?
Yeah,
and the wages that they're all.
Well, not only that, Ruffy, but it just makes a mockery of the whole UEFA fair play, FIFA fair play. It's just a big con. Every club is ripping the back end out of it, you know, right across Europe, the major clubs. And of course, you only have to look at what happens at the end of it. You spend too much, you spend more than you're bringing in, you get a Barcelona, Real Madrid, and you get people now pushing for a Super League and a breakaway. That's what happens when you get greedy and you can't balance the books. Andrew Davison, I'm leaving you with this point from Andrew Davison, who says quite simply, great show again, Peter, but you still have some numpties on it. Of course, that's the nature of this game.
This is our night.
Just
about the other numpties tomorrow night.
This is the panel we've got. Charlie's on tomorrow night with Tam and his dreadful shirt. I mean, so many people mentioned it. Did you see it yesterday? I mean, it's just, I don't know how Tam McManus got up, stood in front of the mirror, put that shirt on and thought, I'm looking dangerous.
I thought it was an old Nigerian shirt, like from the 90s, I think, like one of the 90s shirts that they had.
Yeah. He looked like an extra from Cool Runnings, didn't he? It was a mile out. But Tam thought he looked good in it. That's the man who obviously dyed his hair blonde a couple of years ago to join the show. He looked like a Bond villain. He's had some real major mistakes in the fashion. But what will he be wearing tomorrow night? We will find out. Good luck to all 4 Scottish clubs. Fingers crossed they do well tonight and the coefficient increases, and maybe also they get extra money in to increase the quality in their squads as well. We hope that all 4 clubs produce a positive performance. You can give us your thoughts on the weekend's football. Remember, it's cup tie football, no Premiership football in Scotland over the weekend, so we'll be previewing those matches and reflecting on what's happening tonight. Enjoy your football. If you get a chance, subscribe to our YouTube channel and also hit the bell and you'll get notifications of when we're live. We'd really appreciate you doing that, joining the football family. Share it with your pals and tell them how to do it. And also coming up, we'll be giving away more of the Premiership strips and other goodies for you to enjoy and win on the programme as well. So from Alison, Ruffy and myself, Peter Martin, thank you very much for watching.